when I get a call one day that my mom is telling me that she had stage 3 breast cancer. And my heart dropped because while breast cancer is very treatable, she had an underlying heart disease, heart failure, and the chemotherapy for the breast cancer would have basically killed him. And so I'm thinking, like, what do you do, right? Like, is she going to die from the breast cancer or is she going to die from the chemo, right? And again, I'm in my 20s. I'm not married yet, and I was like, I want you to walk down the aisle with me. I want you to see your grandkids. Like, I had all these plans for myself and my life. And my mom very much was the matriarch of our family. And both my parents, like, amazing people, have done a lot for the community, mission driven. She was hyper educated. She graduated high school at 13, had 4 bachelors by 18, 4 masters after that, went for a PhD, and was very much fighting for women's rights, ultra feminist, and fighting for rights of immigrants in the United States with a board of ed, getting kids tested in their own language. So I have the utmost respect. This woman is my best friend, and she's the rock of my world. And here I am, where she's asking me for help, right? I'm always going to her for help, and she was like, "What do I do?" And I just felt it's such a loss. And I remember, we're not really allowed, we don't even have time to breathe during the day at work. And all of a sudden I have to ask for time off, which is something I've never done, because now I'm going, instead of 5 hospitals in a day where I work for my job, I'm now going to hospital to get her consultations. And no doctor wants to treat her because they're like, if I treat her, I'm going to kill her. All of a sudden I started feeling really weak in my legs. And I said, what is going on? And eventually I got, like barely an hour out of my workday to be able to see a neurologist. And she was one of the best. And, she maybe didn't have the best bedside manner, but she did a bunch of tests, EMGs, poking and prodding, needles in my legs. And she's like, you're fine. Yeah. And I was like, but I'm not. And she's like, you're fine. And I left and I felt no sense of hope of, clearly my body is manifesting something, right? And I don't have the words, I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth to know or understand. And literally, within a couple of days, we ended up getting a lecturer, a professor that talked about mindfulness-based stress reduction. And I was so moved. And he was talking about cognitive behavioral therapy. And in psychiatry, they were telling us, you should go to, all of us, in order to be a good psychiatrist, go for your own therapy. And I said, okay, with what time and with what money, right? Like therapists, they cost hundreds of dollars an hour. Insurance doesn't pay for it. And I'm working 100 hours a week. Who am I going to see and how? Like, how am I affording this? It felt very much like a luxury. And I thought the idea of, I imagined psychoanalysis, I'm going to be laying on a couch talking about things from 20 years ago with someone who's half the time behind the couch and falling asleep, right? Like, we had this idea of old white male Freudian therapist. And then this professor was like, cognitive behavioral therapy, action-oriented, 5 sessions, going to change your life. 45 minutes, you're not laying down on the couch, upright. And I was like, damn, sign me up. And that is the day I became a therapist ready for therapy. And Julian, can I tell you that those 5 or 8 sessions later, I went from not being able to walk or to stand, that severe leg weakness, to 100% better.
Wow.
And I was like, a couple things I learned. Your body expresses what your mind cannot. And I wasn't capable to articulate all of the conflict that I felt. I have a duty to serve my patients. I also have a duty to my family. These 2 things are not, and I don't know how to ask for what I need. And I don't know how to process impending loss, to this level. And then I also recognize that if you don't take care of your wellness, it's going to become your illness. And it became mine. So after going through the therapy, after finishing residency training, I said to myself that we have to give people skills, life skills, right? So when literally the shit hit the fan, we know how to deal with it, right? Because I didn't.
So take us through practical optimism, your 8 steps.
Yes.
For someone, because some people, including myself, need longer than just eight sessions, 6 sessions.
100%.
Like how?
Okay, yeah. And I don't mean in any way to minimize if anyone's listening to this and they're like, 8 sessions. I've been in here for therapy for 8 years. And, I should say that I have gone back to therapy many times in my life, right? So that was all I had the time and affordability for. But I have gone back to that therapist throughout my life after I met her. And it has been immensely beneficial. So take as long as you need, in therapy. And sometimes it is multi-year process, right? Yeah. But just know that it doesn't have to be, because that can be really daunting to people. First thing is, what is the difference between optimism and practical optimism? And optimism is an important mindset, but really at the end of the day, that's all it is, right? It's the belief that good things can happen, but that's where it ends. And to me, practical optimism is not just a mindset. It's also an action set, a tool set, and a skill set that translates positive outlooks into positive outcomes through action. And there are 8 pillars. I start with the first one is having a purpose in life. And there's a reason why these 8 pillars are in this order, because purpose could be capital P, what's your purpose in life? Or it could be small p, what's your purpose in this moment, in this meeting, in this interaction with the two of us? What do we want, right? What do we want to get out of this? What do we want to share? What do we want people to know? So purpose is intention, vision, setting a goal. And the last P is practicing healthy habits, but it's really just the execution of that goal. So any goal that you have, if you're listening to this, say, okay, this is my goal, so I want you to figure out a goal. It could be a goal or it could just be better mental health, right? And what do I want? And I always say, if you can't figure out the purpose, it's your job to create it. Put the cart before the horse. A lot of people may say, my job doesn't excite me. And I would say, it's okay. First of all, your purpose doesn't have to be the same. What it was yesterday, you could have loved the career path that you're in. You could have loved the partner, or you could have loved the hobbies that you had. But we evolve, right? Just our purpose evolves just the way we do. So purpose yesterday doesn't have to be a purpose today. Purpose today doesn't have to be a purpose tomorrow. It's always changing.
This is such an interesting point. I've read many books about, if you don't know your purpose, your greatest purpose in life is to find your purpose. And all these sayings, I think a lot of people are probably scratching their heads thinking, like, what does it mean to feel this purpose? And I know Peter Diamandis, who's been on the podcast a few times, talks about massive transformative purpose. What is the thing that's going to energize you when you wake up on a Monday morning and energize you as you go to bed on a Sunday? It's like that sort of, and I think a lot of people are scratching their heads thinking, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
So where does one start? Like,
it can be the very small things, right? Like one of the things I talk about, which is somebody may say that's interesting how it comes into under your pillar of purpose, is joy and pleasure, because I feel like a lot of us are just going through the motions, and we're adding to the drudgery drawer of like the things that I need to do. So if you're feeling lost, just say, how do I get a little bit more pleasure in my life? And how do I start cultivating habits and hobbies that are for no other reason other than to give me pleasure? And it could be listening to a podcast like this. It could be listening to signing up for a class, right? Like going to meetings, going to networking events, and putting yourself out there, exploring. And the path becomes clear to you. I think, was it Rumi that said, like, what, like our path becomes clear once we start embarking on. I'm trying to remember who said that, but the path becomes clear once you start walking on it. And a patient of mine had given me a plaque one time. She was somebody who wanted career path A. It didn't work out for her. Through therapy, we said, okay, what's the goal? She says the goal is to help people. I said, well, there's a million ways you can do that, right? It doesn't have to be through this crazy PhD program that was so intense and was going to cost her hundreds of thousands of dollars and set her back time-wise. And instead, she found a different job that ultimately led her to become a head of a wellness company, but, a decade later. But she's a big deal now. And she sent me a newspaper clipping with this plaque that said, write your purpose in pen, but your path in pencil. So if the goal is to make people happy, my God, there's a million ways. You can become a comedian to make people happy. I had a job working at McDonald's, at one point when I was a kid, and saving up money for college and for medical school, and flipping burgers and doing it so ungracefully and burning my arm and getting oil stain, and I enjoyed it. I'm like at the cashier counter and talking to people and, having fun. Like, even never think that anything is too small, too big, too menial, right? Make joy wherever you are. You can always connect what you're doing to some greater cause.
Thanks for watching this Beyond Tomorrow clip. If you haven't subscribed yet to our main channel, join us there for conversations that can help you thrive today and flourish tomorrow. We'll see you next time.